Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Niklix. In this video, I am going to tell you how to how to implement a validations in your Laravel form. So, as we know that validations are the very important part of your end of your project because server-side validations are that is going to check if there is any unused some unwanted data that user has input so that input does not hamper or create some unexpected errors in a database. So for that, we need to implement the validations on our user form and need to check those validations with the help of this Laravel validation class. So let's start with the validation part. So for that, I am going to create a route that is a route is equals to get, and we can say a validation. So this will be open, and this will just open this URL, will take me to the I controller validation function. And in the I controller, I am going to make a validation function, public function validation. So here I am going to return a view that is a validation form, and so whenever the user will just open validation, then validation URL will take me to iController validation function, and in validation function it will be returning a view called validation form I have not been made, so it will not be displayed right now. So going with my XAMPP htdocs, my second project app, and resources, and here the views. So in views I have to create my form, the view named as validation form. So I'm going to just copy this display form blade, and I'm going to change its name as validation dot hyphen form .play.php. So I'm just going to we can just use this form only. So input type, we have a form submit. I can just change its URL over here. So the form action is post, and CSRF field is a token that you have to used in your all Laravel form. So it's a first name is first name, and the last name is a name given to this, then the marks 1 and marks 2. So I need to validate all this with the help of inbuilt validation function. So right now I'm going to set its URL where it will be going. So I can change its URL to validation form submit. So whenever I'm going to submit this form, it will be taking me to validation form submit URL. So the form method is post. So I need to create a route with the help of post method. And here I'm going to say as slash validation form submit. And when this URL is encountered, it will take me to this validation submit function that I'm going to make in my controller. So validation submit function. So I'm going to go here, and I can say here as public function validation submit. And as we know that it is going to receive a form values, so I can just put here a request object, and it will create a request instance for that. And now the validation parts goes here. Validate is an inbuilt function that is going to check the request, and now I'm going to check the first name that is being uh, that comes from my form, and I'm going to implement a validation over here as required. So required validation is being implemented, and same will be in the case of your all. I need to check what's the form last name, it's marks 1 and marks 2. So last name, marks 1 and marks 2. The k is been missing over here. So these are my forms. And now if any of this will is empty, because I have set up a validation condition as required. So if any of these fields are empty, then it will generate an error. And we can say here as we can say implement this way. So we can do here as return back. So back will just take me, the back function will just take me to the calling form, the calling URL. So I will be coming back to this validation form, and in the validation form, in the top after the body part, I am going to create a div. So here I can implement if errors. See, errors is your inbuilt function of your Laravel that checks that holds any error if your form is being generated, or if your user like first name is empty. So error will be holding up the error for that your first name is empty. So I can just put here the function as that if errors any, means if there is errors, then I can just close it with end if. And in the end if, so if there will be any error, I can put here as a div, and I can say here as for each, because uh, there can be multiple number of errors. So if for each errors all as error, and for each, and here I am going to say here as if there are any error, all the error that is been encountered in the form will be displayed over here. So this was all about the error. So let's see the output for this. So now let's check the output, and if I'm going to refresh this, there comes an error. So let's check out what's the error is. It's showing me on the line number 119. If I'm going to check my eye controller 119, oh, like there is a mistake from my side that I have written the function name as validation hyphen submit. It should be underscore submit. So validation underscore submit, and changing the URL, the function name should be validation underscore submit. So now I'm going to refresh this. So refreshed. So if I'm going to make it empty and I'm going to submit this, it's showing me the first name field is required. If I'm going to fill up my first field, then the last name field is required. So in this way, you can just implement your validation. So if last field is empty, now the marks 2 field is required. So in this way you can implement your validation part. I'm just going like a quick review of what I have done. So first of all, I have like made a validation URL that is going to take me to the validation function in iController. So validation function is redirecting me to the validation form. So in this, a validation form will be opened, and validation form, I have made a form, define its name, and form action of this form action. This submit function will take me to the this URL of validation form submit, and validation form submit, when because the form method is post. So validation form submit will take me to iController validation submit function. So in the validation submit function, the form is being passed in the request variable. So this is an inbuilt function. Validate is an inbuilt function of a Laravel that is going to check that the request, the form which will be having the first name and its condition is required, means whether it contains value or not. So in this way, all the fields of forms are checked, and return back will take you to the that particular form from where you have been coming. So it will be again open this form, this validation form blade file, and here if here I have implemented that if any error exists. So errors is the inbuilt again the function of a Laravel. So it should be errors only. If you are going to write as error, then it will be generating an error. So if errors any if any errors is having any like if errors is having any error in it, so we need to just loop it so that all the errors should be print one by one. So in this way, you can just implement your validation in your Laravel. Thanks for watching my video. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, do subscribe to my channel and click on the notification button so that you do not miss any of the update of my programming and technical tutorials. Thanks for watching my video.